call to order this regular board meeting of Mojave Air and Spaceport at Rattan Field this March 21st, 2023. Kathy, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, roll call. Director Coleman.
Here.
Director Morgan.
Here.
And Director Allred.
Here.
And Director Barney is here. We don't have Director Ballantyne with us today. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Well, we can't just do the aye and nay, can we? We got to do individual. All right, roll call vote. Director Coleman.
Aye.
And Director Morgan.
Aye.
Director Allred.
Aye.
And Director Barney is also aye. Agenda is approved. Any community announcements and public comment items on the agenda? Kathy, I think that's why you're here.
The light is green. Whoops, that is why I'm here. First of all, happy spring, everyone. It arrived yesterday. I wanted to bring up something Director Coleman and I discussed at the State of the County dinner. I had thought of it, and then it just, with everything that's happened, kind of went out of my mind, but he reminded me, we really need in Legacy Park a plaque honoring Brian Benny, who was such a big part of this becoming a spaceport because he did fly Spaceship One in 2004. He passed away in September 14th last year, and what a great loss to many of us in the aviation aerospace community. He on October 4th, he flew the Spaceship One for the second Ansari X Prize flight. He soared to a record height of 367,000 feet, of 367,442 feet, exceeding Mach 3, and broke the altitude record set in 1963 by the North American X-15. That's really cool. Benny became the world's second commercial astronaut, as well as the first Scotsman to reach space. He flew two firsts in Spaceship One, the first supersonic flight and the flight that won the $10 million Ansari X Prize. These flights were first and last powered flights of Spaceship One. The first powered flight was on the 100th anniversary of powered flight, December 17th, 2003. And I think Bert did that on purpose, celebrating the flight of the Wright brothers. The rocket engine was lit for just 15 seconds, and Benny was propelled to a speed of Mach 1.2 and a height of 67,800 feet. Not only did he fly Spaceship One, but he flew that rotary rocket. You see the Roton out there in Legacy Park. And I don't know how many of you watched that fly, but it was scary. But it actually flew down runway 30 several times, and I have video. And I've got to get with Jason because it's got to be converted from VHS, but it's something that I would like to have in the kiosk in Legacy Park. Another plaque that I think and Director Coleman suggested was a plaque for John Karkow. He was an extraordinary engineer, and he attended college, let's see, at an early age at the controls of a mighty Cessna 150, he earned his pilot's license, and then his commercial license for instrument rating single multi-engine land and sea gliders and helicopters. I mean, he loved to be in the air. He graduated from Kenyon College in 1984, degree in physics. And then he got his degree in aeronautical engineering. But instead of going to work for one of the giant aerospace establishments, his dream job was to get a position at Burt Rutan Scaled Composites in Mojave, California. And that became a reality in 1986. And there he acted as project engineer on numerous programs. One number I heard was 12, another I heard was 20. But it also included the Virgin Atlantic Global Flyer. And I don't know how many of you saw that fly. That was cool. And he was one of the 2 pilots assigned to that program. The other pilot was Doug Shane. And Karkow spent 22 years working as an engineer and test pilot with Scaled Composites. And then in 2007, he joined Icon, which was a seaplane. And I got to see an Icon fly out of Tehachapi. It was so beautiful. But one of his many contributions to the program was the spin-resistant and hydrodynamic design of the A5. Karkow also flew the first test flights of the proof of concept of the Icon and the production version of the airplane. Unfortunately, he was killed in 2007 during a test flight of that aircraft. But we need to acknowledge him because he was such an important part of Mojave Air and Spaceport. So that's just my comment. I'm hoping that maybe the Transportation Museum and Mojave Air and Spaceport could go together and get these plaques and have a ceremony at Legacy Park for these 2 great guys that really played a significant role here at the spaceport. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. That's it's not an action item up for debate, but thank you so much for reading the history of those 2 fine gentlemen, and I'm glad Director Coleman reminded you to bring it up. Mm-hmm. Do we have any other community announcements? Public comment?
Coleman would like to add a couple things in if I could.
Yes.
John Karkow, I mean, he did the first flight on the Global Flyer, and then the first flight on the Visionaire Vantage with Doug Shane. And you look at his background, and he was kind of in the early days of Scale Composites when they had maybe 20 people or so, and maybe Bob Morgan might know more. But he was that quiet guy behind the scenes that would get an assignment from Bert, and then he would just click into design, build, flight test, and what he did. But he was such a quiet gentleman type of guy, and it's just, he's fitting to be on those type of walls. So that's kind of what I see, and Bob might add a couple of other things to that.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you so much for bringing that up. Those are both remarkable people. Worked with both of them for many years. Funny story about John was Bert bought a helicopter and brought it back here, and then he offered to all the test pilots to get their ratings in the helicopter, and John was not considered a test pilot at the time, just an engineer, and they all used his helicopter and got their ratings in it. And then one day, one of them was giving John a ride in Bert's helicopter and said, "Oh, do you want to try and fly it?" And John took the controls and flew it flawlessly. Turns out he had his helicopter license, but didn't bother telling anyone that he had gotten it. That's how humble and quiet he was. I mean, I'd be telling everybody at work, "Hey, I got my rating last weekend," you know. Nobody knew. Yeah.
I think I remember your Facebook post when you got your helicopter rating.
Yeah, sure.
I'd have announced it to the world too. Well, thank you. I know it's a little bit of divergence, but I sure do love the kind of the history refresher and reminding us how close we are to it, and that we are rooted in it, and coming up with ways that we can continue to memorialize these wonderful people. Any other Community announcements, public comment? Okay, moving on then. So the consent agenda, we have our two usual items, minutes from the previous board meeting and the check register. Do you hear a motion?
Motion approved.
I second it.
All right. Roll call vote. Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director Morgan?
Aye.
Director Allred?
Aye.
And Director Barney is aye. Both items are approved. Okay, on to our action items. Two action items. That's a mercifully short list this time. Okay, action item A, Voyager Aircraft LLC, 969 lease agreement. Let's see, Scott?
Yep.
Does Director Coleman just silence for this, or is there no physical walking out of the room, or is he able to stay for this one?
We're actually going to table this. I heard from the FPPC last Wednesday that they are working on their advice letter. I have not received it yet or heard back from them, so there is no action to take today.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, for background, the last meeting, Director Valentine asked some questions, and then Scott followed up on that with the regulatory body, and so I think we're waiting on getting those results back, so
Okay,
to satisfy Director Valentine.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, on to item B then, the Weiss Hangar, 949 sublease agreement.
Madam President, member of the board, this is Ralph Wise is owner of Hangar 949. It's under a 25-year contract with the airport effective October 1st, 2001, terminating in September 30th, 2026. Mr. Wise is requesting consent to sublease his hangar to Tom Siegler. Staff recommends approval of the consent to sublease and authorization for the CEO to execute this agreement.
Any comment from members of the board?
A motion to approve.
Yeah, oh, we gotta get members of the public to comment too. You know, I read through it, I didn't see anything outlandish, it seemed pretty typical. So, any comment from members of the board or members of the public? No, all right, okay, so we have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so are you gonna second, Terry? We got a motion from.
Oh, we got a motion
Yep.
here. Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director Morgan?
Aye.
Director Allred?
Aye.
Director Barney? Aye. Motion's approved. And that does it for our action items. And on to our long list of reports, which ends up actually being very time efficient, so I'm not worried. Go for it.
Madam President, members of the board, I mean, really at the end of the day, I'm just going to hit on a couple of things that are really, worth looking at. Haven't heard anything about the inland port lately. I did include in your packet a article that Pioneer Partners provided about California and Japan's collaboration for clean ports and shipping. Just GWIS information of what they're working on right now. Water system update. We're still working on the design and engineering for the relocation of that water line. Director of Facilities did advise the other day we did have some leaks that we're working on that existing section of the pipeline. So it might be a good time for us to go ahead and relocate it out because it's getting awfully holy. Hangar development update. I did talk to another entity about potential for development of hangars, a development firm. They throw out a pretty interesting idea, and it might be worth us to go down the road, especially if we want to start considering constructing hangars, is to understand what the demands are in the area. What we could do is potentially work on a survey and reach out to the local pilots that are in this area, but also reach out to some of our local airports and ask if it's okay to get their wait lists and contact those people on the wait list, say, hey, what are you looking for? And then whether or not we can scope our project based on what those needs are. So looking into doing that in the near future, but that's going to be somewhat of a heavy lift. But I think it's a great idea. Today and through Thursday, we have BRPH on site doing the charrettes, which are just basically stakeholder meetings to find out what all would be needed for a payload processing facility, size, facility requirements. And that's in an effort to work with AFRL, who has secured some funding and advised last week even more money towards the design and engineering of a payload processing facility. So that's very promising. I think what we're doing right now is just a lot of the groundwork to get everything set up for the actual engineering and design. So finally, I did include an ASD report. That's the spaceport component of the FAA to Congress on the National Spaceports Policy. It's a really dry reading. I think the takeaway from it at the end of the day is spaceports need infrastructure, and we need to have some sort of funding mechanism.
So on the note about gathering data to try and incentivize development for the GA hangars, I think it's a great idea. I would recommend not just reaching out to local airports, but also some pilots organizations. So Tehachapi Society of Pilots is very plugged in with the pilots up at Tehachapi, and they are not an arm of the airport or the city itself, so they're another good organization to talk to. And then the Rosamond Sky Park, I would encourage reaching out to them too. They do have an active board, and they would have some essay on the demands there as well.
Thank you.
So other items you have, so the runway 1230, any updates there?
Still scheduled for to start the week of May 29th.
Okay. I know I do get into that periodically. And we have the hypersonic quarter. Any updates?
No updates.
No updates, okay. And we don't have any standing board committees, and I don't really see a need to.
I was just going to bring this up really quick. I apologize. I totally forgot. Our new director of operations, Ariel Sewell. I'm sorry. I cannot pronounce her name with the dark. I am working on it. But
Ariel, how do you want your name pronounced?
It's Ariel.
Ariel.
So she is joining us. She's on day 2. So already off to a very quick start.
Wonderful. Glad to hear it. Welcome. So I know that the staff has been running real lean. So you're very much needed. So it's now a good time. Would you mind just a couple of minutes about yourself? Just say hello to people.
Absolutely.
Can you use
We have the microphone over there. Yep.
Those second day jitters. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. So my name is Ariel Sewell. I am coming to you from Fresno. I'm still in a bit of a transition period as we try to move down here, learn the ropes, and get things going. But I'm very happy. A little bit about myself. I did work at a Part 139 as well as a general aviation airport. So I do have unique experience in both arenas. The super highly regulatory FAA portion over in the 139 airport, and as well, meeting some of our needs on the general aviation side. I have a background in safety management systems, master's degree in aeronautics with a specialization in aerospace safety program management, as well as my bachelor's in technical management with a focus in aviation safety. So, and for a while, I was working at a zoo as a safety and security manager. So definitely help with the transition between security and operations that we're looking at. I have learned working in both arenas, they are very similar. So very honored to be here. This is an amazing experience, and I hope to learn quickly and be able to provide some more input and informed decision making.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming to our remarkably soggy desert. This is not usual.
It's quite cold. Thank you.
That checks all the boxes for the reports. I think we're part through. I don't see any for board committees. Anybody see any for board committee? No. Okay. Director comments for items not on the agenda. Anybody got anything?
No.
No? All right. So
One for Mr. Coleman, if I could.
what you got?
I know it's only reading news, but Virgin Orbit is kind of close to bankruptcy, let's say. Mm-hmm. And I know it's not a done deal, but their stock went down to 42 cents today. And the directors are already writing severance packages for themselves and everything like that. So I'm not saying we need to take any action, but Maston kind of went bankrupt on us, and yeah, we lost out some. But I mean, just, I know you're keeping up on updates from Virgin Orbit, but they're kind of likely to maybe go bankrupt. But any Scott comments or anything? Maybe I'm too premature with my you know.
Yeah, I don't have any further information today, so I don't know what's going to happen, but it is something I know Tim and staff has been keeping an eye on, and I think that they've been sending emails out to keep the board and others aware of what's going on, and we'll keep an eye on it for sure.
And of course, you know, as one of our customers who are working in the air launch realm, you know, it was wonderful to see the success, even though the launch was in the UK. I think it was the first horizontal launch in the UK, at least the civilian one. So, you know, Stratolaunch had laid off 75% of its workforce before investors swooped in, bought them, and they've been on the rebound. So here's hoping we see something similar for Virgin Orbit. But yes, it's on the radar, I think.
We can't do anything until actually something actually occurs.
Just hope for the best. Mm-hmm. Well, hello, Director Ballantyne. Good to see your face.
Hey, thank you. If I can keep this SIM card in, I'll be with you. It keeps popping out.
Okay, so do we have any other director comments for items not on the agenda? Nope. Okay, in that case, I think we're ready for a closed session.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, Jim, you're going to have to drop off as well because you're not listed on the agenda.
Oh, you're muted, Jim. Don't blow away, Cappy.
Okay, Scott, I'm going to go ahead and leave. I just...
Thank you.
Oh, he left. All right.